All right, so if you'll notice, I left this side blank. This is where we're going to make some notes about the steps that you should take, but we're not actually going to do a real problem. And then over here, I'm going to graph in general, but not an actual problem. And hopefully that will help you do any problem that you encounter. So first of all, the amplitude is always A. So over here, I'll give you just a sampler. Y equals A sine of BX. So amplitude, or your A is the amplitude. Your period, your period is always going to be 2 pi, or basically the original period of sine, divided by B. So notice I didn't say that B is your period. I'm just saying that affects your period. Okay, so maybe I should include that on the front of your foldable. It affects the period, changes it. So whatever you have for B, you divide 2 pi by that, and that gives you your new period. So you've identified these two changes to the parent function, and then you just go through your normal routine. You're going to find all the x values, starting at 0. Then you're going to find the corresponding y's. And then you're going to graph. So same, oh, that's going to bother me. There, all circles. On these last 3 steps, they're exactly the same as what we learned yesterday. The only thing you need to do is account for that your amplitude is now changed and your period size has changed. That means that your quarter period size is going to change as well. So that's the main change here. So whenever you go to graph, you're going to basically start the same way. Here's your x sub 1, your x sub 2, x sub 3, x sub 4, x sub 5. You'll always have 5 points there. And your amplitude now, instead of being 1 and negative 1, it's going to be A and negative A. And your period length, well, let's go ahead and graph this. So it'll look something like this. And this height here is what we're talking about when we say amplitude. And then the period length, how long it takes before it repeats, is no longer 2 pi, it's 2 pi divided by B. All right, and just to kind of add some color, I'm going to use my orange and my green, and I'm going to go through, I'm going to highlight my amplitude, and my amplitude here, here, and here. So you can see kind of what that changes. And then the B affects my period, but you can see in the formula it's not my period, it's just what affects it. And then my period length over here is affected by it as well. So not too bad. Obviously this isn't a practice problem, we'll do one in a moment, but those are the steps you take. So now let's look at what steps change when you add a horizontal shift, when you scoot that graph over some and it doesn't start at the origin. So here's our sampler. Y equals A sine of BX minus C. Tori's texting me. How long do I cook chicken for? 20 minutes. All right, so our steps. Again, we are going to identify the amplitude. The amplitude is the number in front of your trig function. Whatever that is, we're going to call it A. The period, again, will be your original period 2 pi divided by B. But this time, we need to identify our starting point, or our horizontal shift, and that is going to be C divided by B. Okay, so notice our horizontal shift is not C. It's not just C. It's C divided by B. That's how much we scoot over. You don't need to know why. That's just it. Okay, it's C over B. And then all the steps are the same. You're going to find your x values, but now you're going to start at C over B. Very important. Now you're going to start here instead of 0, 0. I don't know how many students last year had to erase their whole graph because they started at 0, 0. It was very frustrating. Then you find your y values that go with those x values, and then you graph. How long do I cook the broccoli? 15 minutes. All right, so now we've got our steps. Let's go over here and look at how the graph would look in general. So our amplitude is still going to be whatever number we have in front of our trig function. That's what it's going to oscillate between. But instead of starting at 0, 0, now we start somewhere else. Our x sub 1 is going to be C divided by B. And if it's a negative number, then we actually scoot backwards some. If it's positive, we scoot forward some. And then your other x values follow suit. So we're going to go up. Notice our pattern still generally stays the same. It's just this time we scooted it over. Our amplitude might be different, and our period is going to be 2 pi over b. And our amplitude is right here, A. Again, I'm going to highlight those things to kind of add some color so you see what's going on here. There's my A. So that's how my amplitude has changed. You can see my period is 2 pi divided by b. So it changes how long the wavelength is. And then one more thing is now our horizontal shift. So that's C over B. Now what happens if you don't have a B? What if B is 1? Well, then your horizontal shift is just C. Okay, that's a what if question, but it does come up. So your horizontal shift then is C over B. Changes your starting point. And that's it. So now go ahead and glue it in, and we're going to try a practice problem.